Welcome to the UTeach Microlecture on developing student performance objectives for your field lesson plans. This is part of the Week 5 module, and we'll be referring to the following course handout, What is a Performance Objective? The key concepts for this microlecture include considering your action verbs when you write performance objectives, making sure your performance objectives are specific, and making sure your performance objectives are measurable. You'll be writing 2 or 3 performance objectives, lesson objectives, in your 5E lesson plan template in the area marked by the red arrow. So what is a performance objective? These are brief statements about what you want your students to know or be able to do at the end of your 1-hour field lesson. They should be observable and measurable, and we'll talk about how to do that. The purpose of these short performance objectives are to provide a focus for you, the teacher, so that everything you do within the 1-hour lesson and everything you have your students do are always aligned with those 2 or 3 performance objectives. A performance objective has 3 parts. It starts with students will be able to, and then there's an action verb like classify, and then it finally ends with a description of what you want them to know or be able to do. On the screen are 4 examples of performance objectives. They're not all from the same lesson, but what we want you to do is notice the verb that each one starts with. So measure, use, recall for number 3, and know. Think about the verbs when you're writing your performance objective. They should be action verbs. Those are verbs that tell you exactly what you want students to be able to know or do, and you should be able to observe the student doing the action, like compare, contrast, list, predict. Take a moment to look at the same performance objectives again, look at the verbs, and decide which ones have verbs that are measurable and which ones have verbs that you think are not measurable. Take 5 seconds. If you guessed that the first 3 were measurable, you were right. Measure, use, and recall are all actions that you can observe a student doing. You might observe by seeing or by hearing, but know is not a measurable action verb. Not all verbs are equally good. We want you to avoid verbs that are vague, that cannot be observed, like know, understand, think about, learn, and become familiar with. You can't really get inside a student's head to see if they understand, but you can observe actions that are more measurable. So instead of saying students will learn about mean, median, mode, and range, it would be better to change the verb and write something like students will be able to correctly compute the mean, median, mode, and range. You can observe if they can compute something. In the course handout about Costa's level of questioning, we want you to look at all the measurable action verbs at the bottom, and you can select from these when you're writing your measurable performance objectives. Our challenge to you now is take this information to do an activity with your assigned group in Blackboard using the performance objectives for Mystery Magnets handout. With your group in Blackboard, you'll be deciding if each of the performance objectives is appropriate because it has a measurable action verb, or if you think it's not appropriate because the verb is vague and not measurable. That's our challenge for you. Finally, connect with us at our UTeach website